study a lot kind of thing, and that was the thing.
Me to be like good at
And they'd always assume that when I would reply to them, I'd speak with a different accent or I'd speak with
Asians were shorter and can't play sports as well as Caucasian.
This stereotype of who I am in his head and kind of expected me to be like fawning over him and submissive.
So growing up here, it was a little bit different because the place that I grew up, there was a very, very small international population. So I always get a lot of questions, people saying, oh, whereabouts are you from? And I'd always find it strange to answer. Do I answer, I'm from Australia or I'm from Singapore or Malaysia?
It was a little bit challenging because not everyone understood what I was, and because some Asians look similar, they thought I was Chinese or something else, but I'm a Filipino.
I guess growing up as an Australian with Asian descent is a bit different, considering that all my friends in primary school sort of didn't have the same background, and they were born in a sort of like a Caucasian background. So there's lots of different things that I experienced that were different compared to my friends. For example, just the food we eat was different.
It was very difficult at first when I first came to Australia, and yeah, it was very hard to make friends. I felt a little bit left out, a bit alone, but then I think I assimilated quite well and made friends soon enough.
A lot of the time growing up, like I said before, people would ask whereabouts I'm from.
Like people feel like, oh, where are you from?
Even if you say like, oh yeah, I'm Australian, then people would be like, yeah, but like, where are you from?
I definitely had people come up to me and say, oh, your English is so good, and they'll kind of ask whereabouts I'm from and where I grew up, and they get a little bit surprised when I say that I was actually born and raised here.
Say people I meet or people I meet on the street, especially kids, when they meet me, they sort of don't understand that I'm born in Australia.
It just makes it clearer that there's a type of standard that people have about what an Australian is, and then like a subcategory. Like I've been here for a very long time, and I think people do consider me Australian, but it does accentuate the difference of like the white Australian people compared to me, who's an immigrant.
So one of the biggest stereotypes I've faced is going into the supermarket and being picky about what fruits you choose.
There is a stereotype that Asians were sort of good at maths and the science subjects.
Some people stereotype that like all Asians are good at math.
That's the classic Asian stereotype of, oh yeah, they study a lot kind of thing, and that was the thing that was very prominent in primary school.
It was really interesting though because I guess at the time when I was growing up, the whole idea of cultural diversity was still an up-and-coming thing, so there were a lot of different attitudes towards it.
In primary school, because of the way I look, I got put into ESL, which is English as a second language, so it's a subject in primary school where they send kids who can't speak English well, and my teacher sent me there just because they thought that because I looked different I couldn't speak English well. So I got to the class and I got sent back straight away because the teacher, they realised, I grew up speaking English, so English wasn't really a problem for me.
I was hanging out with this guy, and I think he was a little interested in me, although I didn't really like him, and it was kind of weird because he kind of created this stereotype of who I am in his head and kind of expected me to be like fawning over him and submissive, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm quite aggressive and forward.
One time when I was in grade 9, so I was 14 years old, and my teacher started talking about asylum seekers and refugees, and somehow, I remember just feeling so uncomfortable just sitting there because everyone else in the room was white and had been in Australia for their entire life, whereas I migrated from Sri Lanka. And essentially what the teacher was saying is, why are people migrating from third world countries to Australia and benefiting from all the hard work that Australian people have gone through to get their country to this state, instead of staying in that country and making that country better for themselves. But like, it's not like that. You can't just make something better. And like, Sri Lanka, for example, went through a war. The country was in turmoil. You know, the economy was crumbling, and it was not a very safe place to live. And I think that's part of the reason we moved here at that time as well, even though I didn't really realize it at the time. But, and to have my teacher say that, why are they coming here instead of staying in their own country and making it better? I remember feeling so uncomfortable, and just, yeah, I'll never forget that.